Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fallen from the Stars YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be diving into this project file here for the song Lightning in a Bottle, which I released about 2 weeks ago here on the channel. If you haven't heard it yet, go check it out. But we're going to be going and diving into that song and kind of just like dissecting how I turned these three samples, which you would see here. It's beer bottles, bottle caps, and monster can. And I'm going to play those through and like the little bits and pieces and show you then how I took those bits and turned it into the full song. So first I wanted to show you just like what the sample sounded like, just dry with no effects and not being cut up or anything. Like it's just what I recorded when I was sampling this like 5 years ago. So these three tracks right here in orange. So I'll start with this first track. All right, so that's the beer bottle blow, and you can hear there's also some of me talking and everything because I was recording it at home. So here we go. There's the bottle caps. And then I had one more sample that I recorded on during this like session of samples here, and it was just me kind of flicking a monster can and kind of crinkling it, and then right at the end you'll hear me throwing it into a trash can, which actually became a good thing. It was a good thing that I did that, and you'll see when we kind of start looking at the song itself. All right, so right there you have everything. Those are the three samples that after I, did some processing and everything with them, was able to turn those three samples, which I've now muted, and I will now play just the actual song, which if you haven't heard it, it sounds like this. There's a lot of the elements, like I've used everything that all of those samples in some form have been used. The biggest one I'll go into, but there's only one instrument in there that's not made from the samples, and that is the piano. That is using, I believe, the Key Zone Classic. Or actually, I switched it to the Contact in here. So I did switch it, but originally it was a Key Zone, and I switched it in here now to be a Foundations piano. So this is what I've been using for most of my like clean piano sounds when I'm working in Ableton. Really like this. That's a free, if you have the Contact player, you can just use this. And it's I could go into depth about like, there's like a texture setting and everything. But really for this, I just used it to kind of get a clean piano sound. Sounds like this when it's just being played. And there is some processing on it, like it has all this saturator and EQ. It does have some processing on it to make it sound like different, not just like that piano sound that you're getting. So in the mix, obviously, it just adds that kind of. And that's I played it at a part in the mix where there's not a lot going on. But that is the only thing that is not from the samples. So if we're gonna start with from the top down here in the project file, I organize everything according to, like, I kind of do it with the color here being melody, bass, and then drums, and then this is all the background, any sound effects, glitches, which right here there's only 3 tracks in this song that actually used any glitches and stuff. But we can start with this beer bottle ARP, which I really was really fun. In here, I have this, which is the sampler, or is it sampler? I think this is a sampler. I made this project 5 years ago, so a lot of the things that I'm talking about are things I haven't looked at or really like thought about in 5 years since like making the song. I just pulled it into a new file basically for mixing purposes. I'm gonna solo this one, and you'll hear this ARP. And you can see on the sampler down here that it's playing a particular part of the bigger beer bottle sample. And if you look at the beer bottle sample, you can kind of see it's this right here. And if we go in and we just kind of play that area, this is what it sounds like on the beer bottle sample. Which you can play that on the on here too. So what I did is I took that beer bottle blow and I just told this sampler to play the sound, and when it gets to the end, just loop that ending part. So right here, it's just looping this ending part to kind of back and forth to give it that kind of vibrato almost feel to it. And then I put some reverb on there. I think it's just like one of the stock reverb things. An auto filter to kind of it's automated. So if you look at the automation lanes, which I can't because I have my musical keys on. If you look at the auto filter, I just did it's not even at this part. It's to make it go down at the end, kind of for a fade out. So that's really all that's going on with the ARP there. I don't think I was really doing too much with okay, I did a little bit with the filter stuff here. Not much with the pitch and oscillation. It's just reverb on a beer bottle blow, and because I'm using sampler, it can repitch it, so I can use it to play like it's an instrument. And then at the end, after I arranged it, I got this sound. So that is kind of the whole process I did for this song, was taking very small snippets of the total sample and then using it to make a different sound. So the pluck that comes in at the end here in this melody bit, which sounds like this, and I'll do like a little zoom in, it's that little like rhythmic. That is, I believe, the same beer bottle blow, actually. So if you go in here, it's the same thing, but I believe because I changed the pitch envelope here and the pitch oscillate, the certain aspects of it, it's more of a pluck than like a blow. Yeah, so I did some different things to make it sound like a pluck here, and I think this audio effects rack might have something to do with it. Oh yeah, there's an amp, a delay, and a reverb that all add to that here, so that when you're hitting it here, it's like giving it that like very echoey, delay and reverb effect that's going on there, and then just stacking it over everything else, kind of it adds an extra layer of those high frequencies to the mix, which was nice. So that's really all of the elements that we're making up like melody bits. So if I play all of those together, the piano, the arpeggio, and the pluck, you hear it right at the end. So you can hear how all of those sounds are together there, and that layers over everything. And those are all made actually from the same beer bottle blow, from the sample, the same section. And believe it or not, once we get into the basses, that doesn't really change. I'm pretty sure this sample here is the same part of that beer bottle blow, but now I'm using it in a lower octave. So I've put it down the way, to play the root notes here, and just use some saturation to kind of pull out those bass frequencies. And then this one is different because this is at the end layer. It's essentially the same note, but I've just used way more processing on it. I have an LFO apparently, which is affecting the curve here on the wave shaper on the saturation. So when you play this, and it's obviously being amplified too, it's got that movement, it's got that grit, and when you layer it with the other bass at the end of the song, it really adds like that grit that's not there early on. It's just that really low note, and really the piano that's adding a lot of the bass notes here. So you get that, it just adds it, and you haven't heard it yet, and it's like, oh, that's cool. And that's really all there is to the bass in this song. There's not much else going on. It's just those two notes, and the one note is playing most of the time, because this is the whole length of the track you're seeing here. It's the same beer bottle note. And so this is the drums. The drums are where things get a little bit more interesting, because I'm not trying to look for melody bits anymore. I'm looking for the percussive hits. I'm looking for things that have more transients, things that are going to pop out and be used for a kick or a snare. So the first thing I actually used, excuse the voice crack there. The first thing I actually used was the beer bottle cap sound. I think this is already looped. I looped it and put a auto pan on it, so it goes back and forth between the two ears. I think every quarter note. So it's like switching back and forth just a little bit. Subtleness. And that's really what that's the first part there. Just like a percussive thing to kind of give some rhythm in the background. And then I started making the kick and snare. And the kick and snare were fun because these different layers. Because this one I use the sample, so it's very easy to find it. It's this part of the sample right here. Oh, it's not playing the right thing here. Oh, that's great. Is that really it? That's crazy. For the kick layer, this is where things get a little bit more interesting than those bottle caps. The first kick layer is this sound here, which I'll solo. You might barely be able to hear it. I'll turn it up if it's not coming out loud enough in the final mix, and I can turn it up here too. And then I layer it with this sound. And so this is just me flicking the can. And I think it might be a similar flick to what's being used here for the kick layer, like the second layer. But however, on here, I am putting it to a sampler so that I can change the pitch envelope to go down by 2 semitones, like once it hits, and it gives it that kind of decaying pitch that a kick drum would actually have. And when you layer these two sounds together, you get that kick that sounds like very metallic because I'm using that flick of the monster can to give it that metallic punch, but then has that low end coming in from that second layer, which I just obviously boosted a lot of that lower end and used a drum bus to make it kind of pop out a lot more. And then the snare is a very similar idea where I use a can flick, just a different one, to give it more of a metallic hit to it. And then I'm using a different part of the monster can to kind of give it some more. That's like the snare layer, I think was what I was going for with that. Like, you know, like the bottom snare, like that has like the snare on it. I don't know if there's a better name for it. So there's this layer, which is more of like the snare layer, kind of gives it that like a different kind of metallic-y hit to it. And I think I add some pitch envelope here as well. And then this snare layer, which is really just a click layer on top of everything. So when you get the snare, it has that. And it's like I added a saturator and a chorus to kind of even give it more of an underwater metallic effect. So when you pair the kick and the snare together and just play all of these drums, you're getting that back and forth between these two, like a low metallic sound and this washed out sound. And it does sound pretty decent in the full mix of things. So you've heard most of what's been going on in the song now, between the bass, the drums, all of the melodic bits, and it's using mostly that beer bottle blow, and then the monster can flicks and some of like the crinkles and stuff are going to be coming into effect here as well with the glitch, which I believe was just the monster can crinkles. I put a lot of processing like delays, reverbs on it, and then at the end it came out to this weird kind of effect with some like reverses in it, and I just stitched everything together to come up with like a glitch sound, which I thought was kind of fun. I always like making like little glitch sounds like this. So that was pretty sure from either the bottle caps or the monster can crinkling. The texture now, it's just the little texture here. This is actually has some of like the movement in the background that you're hearing. It's from the beer bottle recording here, where I do this. You can hear it coming up here. I'm rubbing them together. That'll be a good one too. You see, I said that would be a good one too. I was correct, because that is what turned into this right here. And that is by far my favorite thing that changed from the song. Like it turned from like this nasty like cough that turned into this. And I'm gonna show you how I did that, because I'm not even sure really. It's been, I know I used resonator to, so without the resonators, that's what adds all of the like bits. I basically just said, hey, take everything in here and assign these values to it. I think I just made like a normal kind of like, it looks like a 9th chord or something, like a 7th. So, and then using like some distortion and reverb, that turned it into this. And then in the full context of the song, sounding like this. And that is really everything that there is about this song, how it came from monster cans and beer bottles and turned into what I called lightning in a bottle, which maybe the title of the song makes a little bit more sense to you now. I don't know. But I will say there's one little bit of ear candy that's in the song that I did create. This is a reverse, like, so when before the chorus comes back in or whatever you want to call it, it'll come like it does a little suck, you know, to give you like, oh, it's coming in. That's in the background. That is the reverse of me throwing the monster can into the trash, like into the trash bin. If I reversed that, it would sound the other way around. It's just the monster can going into the trash, but reversed. And then in the context of the song. So yeah, there you have it. Lightning in a bottle. That's all of the stuff. This, I might have been a little disjointed, you know, talking about all this stuff. This is my first time doing a video where it's like behind the scenes of one of my project files. So it's gonna be disjointed. The first take of this, I muted myself 3 times and forgot to unmute. So it's just me talking with no sound coming out. So hopefully this is better. Thank you guys for watching if you did, listening if you do, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!